You're live. Welcome to the show. Here we go. Let's do it. Rob Browne's SEC Sidelines. What is going on, Rob? Good morning. How are you? Are you ready for today or what? This is the big day.
If you're
We're
not
starting
ready,
it out.
if you're not ready for today, there's something wrong with you. We've got March Madness started. It started Tuesday night with the play-in games, but now this is it. No more mulligans. Everybody, these are live rounds, and it starts today for 14 SEC schools. I don't think the SEC's reputation's ever been on the line like this. You're talking last year, I wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid. I thought, okay, let's see what happens. This year, I'm a positive person, not a whiner. But God, if the SEC doesn't get at least 6 or 7 in the Sweet 16, you know what's going to happen. So we're going to talk with some smart people today. Coach Matt Dean, ULM AD John Hartwell. He just made a new basketball hire. Dudley Dawson is on today. He's normally on Wednesdays with Vince Ferrara. What a wild week. Vince was in transit to Lexington, Kentucky yesterday. We'll have Dudley on, and then Gary Harris, second half of the show, talking about Alabama. They're a 2 seed. And look, take a picture with your QR code of the subscription for us on X or YouTube or Facebook, because we're simultaneously on 7 channels at once, and we've added Scarborough Knows, AU Undercover. There's a lot on here, and you can get the Buddy Martin Show, Gator Bait at night, 9 p.m. Eastern. So let's get started, guys. Engines, crank your engines, men, because Dudley and Matt and John Hartwell got a great panel this morning. It's opening day. You got so many sidebars, Dudley. Go back to the 1988 National Championship game. Larry Browne and Ernest Billy Tubbs from Oklahoma. That Bill Self and John Calipari were assistants on Larry Browne's staff, and now they're going to coach against each other in the Northeast today. John, you just hired a new coach. Matt, holy cow. I was looking. Where do you want to get started? I'm going to go ahead and here's what I'm going to do. I want to hear from Dudley about, John Calipari, the matchup today, the Hogs, and you got some guys back that have been away for a while that could help Arkansas immediately.
Well, first of all, I think that these are the best 2 Thursdays of this year. And I double checked and made sure my anniversary and my wife's birthday were not on those 2 days in the upcoming days. But you got the start of the NCAA tournament, or the real start of the NCAA tournament this year. And then next week is the start of a real baseball season, Major League Baseball. So I'm pretty pumped about these next 2 Thursdays. Now, Arkansas, left for dead. Came back, got into the tournament, and I don't want to say by ease, but they weren't one of these last teams that had to go in the play-in games and all that. As you said, they're getting Boogie Flan back today, who was arguably their best player. Probably going to play somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes. And while that's not earth-shaking, when you have 7 healthy or 6 healthy people, anything you can get, and especially from a talented guy, is it's cool for them. Now they are taking on a Kansas basketball team that started the year, viewed as one of the number 1 teams. It actually started the year in a scrimmage here at the University of Arkansas. Right. Arkansas beat them, but Arkansas played as if it was the national championship, and Kansas didn't have Hunter Dickerson and some other guys, so it wasn't a true measure of those 2 teams. But exciting day for everybody. Exciting day for a lot of people who didn't think they'd either be participating in the NCAA tournament. But as you said, Arkansas, one of 14 teams, although I guess there's now 13 left now that Texas is gone. And I guess, man, it sure sounds like they're about to hire a new coach.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wild time. And John, say congratulations from Maury Gaston from there in Mountain Brook on your new hire. A congratulatory foot stomp is your way from the late, great Lefty Drizel. I've never done a coaching search before. Let's talk about it and what this guy brings to the table. You've got some history with him.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough to be able to name yesterday Phil Cunningham as our new head coach. Actually, the second time I've hired him as a head coach. Hired him back in 2013 at Troy, and he was able to take Troy to its first ever Sun Belt Conference championship in 2017 up until a couple of weeks ago. And, that'll be an intriguing – there's so many intriguing matchups. But Troy at Kentucky, how healthy is Kentucky? Troy's got the Sun Belt Player of the Year, a lot of things there. But, yeah, really excited about getting Phil on board. As you mentioned, his affiliation with the late, great Lefty Driesell. He was Lefty's right-hand guy, associate head coach at both James Madison and Georgia State. Then began a long-term association with Rick Stansberry through the glory days of Mississippi State basketball in Starkville, and then at Western Kentucky for a stretch too. So Phil's dad is still one of the I think top 10 all-time winningest NAIA coaches in the country at Campbellsville, Kentucky. So he comes from a great basketball background. Have worked with him before. Actually, he and I were together at Georgia State in the late 90s, along with Lefty. So really excited to get him on board. And in today's world, especially in basketball, you can do it in football, but especially in basketball, you can flip a roster very quickly. I hate to even say this, the transfer portal doesn't open until March 24th, but it's wide open right now. It is wide open right now. So he's in process of assembling a really strong staff. We expect to be able to announce that here in the next couple of days, and working the transfer portal and some JUCO kids like crazy right now. So we're excited about the future of our program.
John, I'm not going to act like I'm an expert on this, but one thing I watched several Troy games this year, and the one thing I noticed is how hard they play, and that is something that you don't see at every college these days, and that's something that I took just from watching those games. I think you probably got a good one there.
Yeah, they are better. I tell you, our league, and you look at what Arkansas State did to a really good St. Louis team the other night in the NIT. The Sun Belt, much in step with the SEC, is getting better in basketball. It's always, and I'll compare it. I left the Sun Belt for 8 years to go to the Mountain West at Utah State as the AD. Basketball in the Sun Belt / SEC / Conference USA, those conferences that are primarily in the Southeast have always had very athletic basketball players. Those leagues have evolved now into much higher basketball IQ and skill levels, and I think you're seeing it by the success of all of those leagues.
Yeah, and Matt Dean, we talked about this yesterday, and I compared the SEC in the past. You had a lot of great athletes playing basketball, not necessarily great basketball players. That's what the ACC had. Now you've got the great athletes and great basketball players with the high IQs. Do you notice it as much as I do and everybody else?
Yeah, and I think the besides the portal, I think what's really helped basketball in the SEC is the NIL money. I think you're seeing rosters now that are very pro-laden, let's say. Okay, I'll give you
offers.
I'll give you a great example. The University of Iowa men's basketball team, the whole team's in the portal after they lost Fran McCaffrey. Right? It started a couple years ago. They lost Tony Perkins to Missouri for what was reported at close to $750,000. And when you're hiring a head coach now, and John, congrats on the hire. I mean, I saw some of the background of Phil, and I'm really, really impressed. But you're not just talking about how am I going to build your program. There's a collaborative effort between the AD and the future head coach about how we're going to finance this roster, right? And I think that's what people are forgetting now. John's point is well taken. You can flip a basketball roster financially and just from a pure number standpoint, a lot easier than you can a football roster. And going back to the toughness of a hire, John's done back-to-back football and basketball hires. So his phone's been off the hook for like 6-9 months now. So congratulations, John, again. I've been through that process. I don't care whatever level you are. Those are the two positions where people seek you out and they find your cell number. Even you're like, who is this person? Why are they calling me? They're a domino, right? They're a friend of a friend. And I just know how that works. I want to say something quickly about the SEC and how they're going to be judged. This is just strictly my view. You know, last night, I thought Texas, man, played a wonderful first half. But credit to Jay Wright. He talked about in the pregame about how Xavier and the 3-ball, they were always in a basketball game. And my gosh, I just thought Texas was loose defensively all year. It got him in the second half. I do think Trey Johnson's a phenomenal future pro, but they had so much talent on that floor. To lose that game was very disappointing if you're a fan of Texas, in my opinion. But I think, you know, in my bracket, I have 4 Elite 8 teams from the SEC, 2 in the Final Four, and the national champion. And that's how I think they're going to be judged, by those top 4 to 6 seeds and how high they can go. Are we worried that Texas lost last night to Xavier? No, that was a flip of the coin, guys. The reality of the situation is I think it's going to be interesting because I'm going to tell you something. I think you're spot on with Troy and Kentucky. If Kentucky and Tennessee can make deep runs, they play in the Sweet 16. If A&M can make two games, they play Auburn in the Sweet 16. Those are the type of things that really will indicate were we exactly right about this league. Is it that deep? I think we will. But I will tell you, after watching North Carolina play the other night, guys, I'm a little worried for Ole Miss. I think North Carolina is now either 9-2 or 10-2 in their last 12 games. Only 2 losses have been to Duke. I think they figured stuff out, and I think they showed they belong in the tournament.
Yeah. Hey, quick question. Why did Texas play on a Wednesday night?
Well, the first 4 is always Tuesday, Wednesday, because it goes to the Thursday and the Friday bracket, right, John?
Right.
Isn't that the way it goes?
Yeah. That was one of the
Never mind. Yeah, I was sitting there thinking
brain freeze.
Yeah, because you had the 2 games. You had 4 teams playing Tuesday night, 2 games, and then 2 last night. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, never mind. All right, now I gotta. Here's another question. You didn't give us your Final Four. It's bracket Thursday, and a lot of people are going, you know, I'm curious what these guys they're on the TV screen. That means they're automatically smart. And Brendan, put up there that Ernie's brackets thing, because Brendan's got this thing, Ernie's Tourney, and it's pretty cool. Take a picture with your QR code. SEC schools, you know, talk. Florida wins high scoring bracket, wins $5,000. And so, you know, I'm going to get everybody to give me their Final Four today. So, you know, Kevin Skarbinski put us on the spot Sunday night. I got Michigan State, Florida, Alabama, Houston. I've got Florida playing Houston for the national championship, and I have Florida winning. That's how out. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Auburn Tigers are cutting down the net. But, you know, I'm a father to all 16 schools. But then I got Tom Izzo I got to worry about. But it's crazy. Dudley, you know, looking at Arkansas, Boogie Flan is back. And, you know, when you hadn't had a guy playing with you, the chemistry's, it's going to be tough to get it back. I say it is.
That'd be an top 20 NBA pick, or it's what the mock people say. So,
exactly.
You know, if you're going to get somebody back and supposedly mess up chemistry, let's make sure it's an NBA player.
No, I'm not trying to say he's going to mess it up.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you've been a manager.
No, I'm saying, I know what you're talking about. But it is in these situations where they played these 7 guys, and they, you know, some of them have been ready to play every night. Some of them hadn't. You've had maybe 4 guys playing fantastic one night. They've gotten through this with these limited numbers. They're all thrilled. He's a very likable kid. He's someone that he is. When they found out he was going to play with Coach Cal, sending text out to people, you know, they're thrilled, and that's what I see the most out of this situation.
Yeah.
They're glad to have him back. They know the situation they're in. They're going to have a tough game with Kansas. Coach Self is probably one of my best friends in the coaching profession. You know, both coming from the Eddie Sutton tree, and you know, it's interesting. I sit next to him at both Mrs. Sutton's funeral and Coach Sutton's funeral, And, I don't have a rooting interest in this game today, but I do have an intrigued interest because Kansas is not where it's supposed to be this year. Arkansas has come here lately. I think it's going to be a very intriguing matchup and one I can sit back and just watch.
Yeah, it is going to be fun. John Hartwell, the 6'7" kind of, you see, like look at Ole Miss, for example. That's a team that's got a bunch of guys. They don't have a lot of height. So basketball, the way it's played nowadays, is a transition game. Alabama likes to get a shot off every 10 seconds. And a very smart person on this show this week said that's their defense because they're going to try to wear you down by going up and down the court. They lead the nation in scoring. And Mark Sears shoots it 25, 30 points some games, but they don't win all those games. The key is Grant Nelson. You have an inside track to his update on.
Here's what I would
from
say.
New Jersey's wanting to know.
I know he's a game time decision.
Yeah.
And I know that Matt can probably relate to this. I'm a basketball purist. I'm kind of old school. I do think, though, what you've got to look at in the NCAA tournament, and this happened in that Texas Xavier game last night y'all were talking about. If you have both on the offensive and defensive ends, but especially on the offensive end, if you have a consistent scorer in the post, which the big guy for Xavier did down the stretch, that neutralizes some of that up and down, as long as that guy is not a liability on the defensive end. And so if you've got mobility with one of your big guys, and that's part of Florida's secret sauce, I think, is the ability to have that size and do that. I think post play on the offensive end, or you can get the ball to somebody on the blocks, and I don't care how hot you get from the 3-point land, you're going to shoot probably 50% at best. But if you've got somebody at the post who 80% of the time they're either going to score or go to the foul line, I think in NCAA tournament play, that is really, really key. Hey, let me throw one other thing out there, guys, because I was reading this article this morning. This is really fascinating, especially kind of goes against recent trend. Do you realize that 5 of the 8 head coaches in the top 2 seeds are 65 years old or older? And it talks about all of those guys being able to adapt to today's game, to the NIL deal. And I thought it was really a fascinating article because you hear about, the Jay Wrights, the guy at Virginia, these guys getting out of the game.
The vampire.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
Hear from the 60-year-olds.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, along that line, John, what you just said, I hate seeing these guys get out of coaching. Lefty Driesell coached for a long time, and we lost him this past year, but John Wooden was around for a long time. Matt, you've been a coach, men and women.
I've been around for a long time.
Oh, you're not old. None of y'all are. Age is just a number. But
we're all just like fine wines. We just get better with age.
You do.
There's no expiration.
It may be a number, but it's a very high number.
That's right.
Now.
So Matt, as a coach right now in the tournament, the thing that would just make me go off the handle is if I see a guy over there looking at his online banking app during a game on the bench to see if his NIL ACH direct deposit got put in. I think you're going to have some, I don't like the term upset, but you're going to have some surprises here with some teams that have been playing together for 4 or 5 years versus the ringers, the one and doneers that are just in it, come by for a cup of coffee. They don't even know their way around your own campus.
Kentucky Jack.
Yeah, and I think that's – go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
As I said, Kentucky Jack has entered got down Kentucky.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. But, Matt, what about it? I mean, because St. Peter's, when they beat Kentucky a couple of years ago, the coach for St. Peter's was making $200,000 a year. There were 8 guys on Kentucky's roster making over $200,000 a year just in NIL. And Oscar Shibwe was about the only guy I saw that was emotionally distraught after that loss. Matt Dean on a McLaughlin group.
No, that happens every year. And, John, it was interesting. I was going through first round matchups, and a team that really intrigues me is your former team, Utah State. They're playing UCLA. No one's talking about Utah State. Now, Mick Cronin is one of my favorite guys. I know Mick personally. I worked the camp with him and Bob Huggins back in Cincinnati a long time ago. I won't date myself but I will tell you this: another team I like in the first round. That's a 10 seed is New Mexico. Richard Pitino. He learned a little bit from the old man, right?
Yes.
Those are a couple teams I think matchup wise. A lot of people are talking about Yale and A&M. I'm sorry. I think Buzz Williams is one of the best tournament coaches out there. I get it. Everyone likes those sexy picks. They see Yale, they shoot the ball. James Jones has done a phenomenal job there. I just look for A&M to be on a mission a little bit and win that first round game. I will tell you another team that I like a lot that surprised me in the semifinals of the Big Ten. Maryland was playing really good basketball.
Yeah.
They got derailed against Michigan, but I still think Maryland's got a chance to be in a Sweet 16 against Florida. And going back to what John said about the mobile bigs and just bigs in general, if you can hold your own down there and you got the guard play, that's why Florida's got such a huge advantage. They're my national champion in a couple brackets. They're definitely in my final game in all my brackets. And that's why I still like Auburn. I think they got a mixture of athleticism. They shoot the ball, and they got, one of the best guys in America in Broome. I mean, if not the best player in the country, and a tournament veteran coach in Bruce Pearl. But how can you not like Calipari himself? Dudley, when I was a younger guy, I got a chance to actually meet Coach Self a few times. I just think he's a class act. He's one of the best we've ever had in this industry. And I think, it's weird. You talk about 1988, Danny and the Miracles. The guy I worked for at Drake, Tom Butler, was an assistant there when I was a manager. He was part of that staff as a GA too. So there's so many branches out there from that 88 Larry Browne team to this day. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that was
and
awesome.
I tell you this, him Bill when we're together.
Yeah,
my parents raised positions. He could have been if one hadn't messed it up, he would have been the head coach here at Arkansas. And for me to have, because I would have been less subjective probably than I have with most basketball coaches here. But it is you talk about that tree. There's so many coaches who not only get the credit they deserve when they get the credit they deserve when they're on the floor, but they don't get the credit for the trees and not only the young man that they raise up, but the coaches that they advance. And just like John's new hire here, he came from a tree, a very good tree.
Yeah.
Yes, outstanding.
Hey, Rob, I was going to mention, one other thing as you look at today's games. I know people like to look at the 10-7 matchup and say, hey, a lot of upsets come from there. I'll give you an 11-6 that's really intriguing. VCU and BYU is going to be a really good game today. And the people talk about, oh gosh, there's players playing and they're really auditioning for the next NIL deal if they hit the transfer portal. Ryan Odom at VCU, and I hired him at Utah State, and he was there for 2 years. I hired him from UMBC. Many people remember that was the first 16 seed to beat a 1 seed when he beat Virginia.
Yep.
But, really, most folks say it's a done deal that he's going back. He, ironically enough, is going to Virginia, where his dad, Dave, was a assistant coach before he went on to his head coaching days. So there are auditions for players. There are auditions for coaches too going on. I mean, some of the underlying things, I saw a report today that Will Wade has already agreed to become the head coach at NC State once McNeese finishes playing. And I can tell you, because I've seen them play a couple of times, you want nothing to do with McNeese State. Will Wade has assembled. I mean, he's got, you talk about NIL, he's got $1 million worth of NIL to get players at McNeese. So it's the dynamics, the backstories in some of these games are really, really intriguing.
There are, and you talk about when Maryland, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, whatever, beat Virginia, they responded the next year by winning the national championship. Tony Bennett's not even coaching anymore. And I'm telling you, Virginia's got a ton of money. Look at their endowment. Look at their alumni. They've Paul Tudor Jones is a Memphian. Well over $6 billion he's got. They named the arena, I think, after his father, John Paul Jones Arena. My point is, ACC schools, that's a lot of East Coast old money. They're kind of like Eugene V. Krabs on SpongeBob, the owner of the Krusty Krab. I'll tell you when you're getting a raise. $1. That's enough for you, young fella. They're cheap. That's what it boils down to. Those people up there, the SEC is like those two brothers on Smokey and the Bandit, Big and Little Ebert, whatever. You remember those two guys? Enos, yeah.
Right, man.
The SEC is like, I'm bringing him out of retirement, guys, because they've been bringing Dick Vitale out to try to push Duke over the finish line. But I'm going to bring him back.
Hadn't they?
Oh, yeah, Foghorn Leghorn. I love
him to death, man. But come on.
I love Vitale, but you gotta love Duke. Oh, Coach K, I can't take it anymore. The Dean Dome, baby.
Cooper's hurt.
Hey, no, but I love Vitale, but the Duke man crush is a little bit much. But God, guys, and you know who we haven't heard from all year because he's doing those Big Ten games? Bill Rafferty. You know what we get to hear today when a guy hits a sweet shot from the outside? Onions. You got to love these announcers. And if we could only bring back Joe Dean, hey, gonna tickle the twine, little ring music.
You know what I want to hear? I want to hear Gus Johnson do these Bible readings. That's what I've decided I think would be pretty cool. Jesus wept, baby.
Wait.
I love it. This is the VCU. This is the shirt they had back when they had the big run in the tournament, their first big run in the tournament. I wear it every year, either the first or second day. And then my other tradition is, of course, and it was kind of sad this year watching Hoosiers with Gene Hackman, going into the tournament. I have to keep pushing it back further and further. I had to watch it Monday, now. I used to watch it on Wednesday, but now you get these playing games and stuff. But, yeah, that was both uplifting and sad watching that.
They were talking about Hoosiers on the show yesterday with Tommy Kane, I think, was on with us, who's an NC State guy, covers the ACC and SEC. The shot at the end of Hoosiers, how long it took to get that at the Butler Fieldhouse there in Indianapolis. But, yeah,
Jimmy.
No Gene Hackman. He did at least 200 movies.
Hey, I'll make it. I'll make it.
Yeah. We all okay. Now let's do a little rapid fire stuff here. And in a couple of minutes, we'll bring in Gary Harris from Tuscaloosa, covers the Alabama, and they're ready for a race. But Matt, I'll start with Matt, and then I'll go to Dudley, and then I'll go to John. Can you give me your Final Fours with a foot stomp? Your predictions and who's going to win it all?
Yes. I'm going to go Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Houston. Though I think if Bama, Duke play in the Elite Eight, I'm pulling for Bama, but I just think Duke's really good.
They are.
A lot of people. I heard Fran say he's not that high on Houston, Rob, in one of your podcasts. I am. They got a kid named, I think it's Milo Uzan, that's added some offense. I love LJ Cryer. I love their toughness, man. I love tough basketball teams. I don't care if they're 6'8", 6'7", 6. I mean, I love toughness. Houston has it. I got Florida and Houston the championship game. And in two different brackets, Rob, I put Florida once and I put Houston the other. I think those are the best two teams in the country right now.
I do too. Dudley Dawson.
Well, I have 4 different brackets, but they all end with the same 4. That is Auburn, Duke, Florida, and Houston. And I have Florida cutting down the nets. I know they're the chic pick, but that's still who I think. I mean, cutting down the nets, they don't even have to bring out the ladder. The 7'9" guy can just cut them down standing.
Yeah. God.
So that's it. But I'm in 4 different brackets, but I can tell you, I'd like to win CBS. I'd like to win ESPN. I'd like to win the other one in. But the most important to me one is the Big Whiskey's bracket. I'm the defending champion here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Wow. And you win a 25 TV and $150 worth of food. So that's the one that's really poured over to make sure that, that's the one I wanted to have.
Yeah. Well, I like that. I've got multiple brackets being filled out. So I'll get that. John Hartwell.
Hey, I'm gonna go slightly different here. I've got to revert back to the home state. I'm gonna go Auburn, Florida, Alabama, and Houston. And I've got Houston winning the national championship.
Wow. Kelvin Sampson getting the national championship. That's a pretty okay. You know what? I'm not hearing any outliers out there. All right. Give me your outlier, Dudley. It's just a team or two that nobody's talking about.
But first of all, in the early rounds, I'm sitting over here. I've got Colorado State playing Grand Canyon. That would be fun. That's in one of my. And the other three. That's not how I've got it. In one of the brackets, that's how I've got it. I've watched both of those teams play a lot lately, and I like both of them. If I got to pick upsets somewhere, I'm not willing to pick them at the end, but I'll pick them at the beginning. Some of them. But I would say that the team that I think has the best shot of getting there, that a lot of people don't talk about, is Michigan.
Yeah.
They're playing best at the right time to me.
Yeah. All right. So here's something kind of funny. The 8 teams that they ranked them the worst, North Carolina at 1-12 and quad 1 wins. We had an interesting, deal yesterday. Buddy Martin came on the show, said he was, he goes, I'm, tired of hearing about Auburn and Alabama. Why was everybody so late for the Gators? And he said, he goes, Rob, you've been on the Gators. And I have. I just call it like I see it. But I agree with Buddy. A lot of the national media was way late on ranking Florida. And so, and I get that. And I think that's going to fuel Florida a lot in this tournament because they want to show you, hey, we're really good. But I'll tell you what's happening with North Carolina. If I'm Ole Miss having to play them, they're the worst team in terms of, because, Buddy was talking about this quad 1 thing. It's new. He goes, I don't like it. It's a made up thing. Well, it means something. It means, but remember UCLA in 2021 was a play-in team, got to the Final Four and lost 93-90 to Gonzaga. And remember, Gonzaga is like an 8 or 9 seed this year. Watch out for them. They're still Gonzaga. They've been to 8 or 9 Sweet 16s in a row. But you know what I'm worried about? Ole Miss better be ready for North Carolina, because talk about a bunch of guys, Buddy or Dudley, you were right. They've won like 9 of their last 11 games. They've only lost to Duke.
Yeah,
John.
Yeah, and I don't think, as much as there's been acrimony of it, I don't think they should have been in the tournament. I think West Virginia should have been, but all you did was piss them off. And they came out the other night and played possibly their best game of the year against a team that just a few years ago was in the Final Four.
2 years ago.
So all you got to do is put a chip. Having been around and covered and worked for Nolan Richardson, all you got to do is put a chip on somebody's shoulder to get them to play their full potential. So I think that that's something to watch right there. And I did fill out my brackets before and put them in before that Tuesday night North Carolina game. I lost my mind if I had not already put them in, after watching that North Carolina.
Yeah.
Rob, you look at the domino effect of all these things, and you talk about North Carolina getting in, West Virginia not getting in. That frees up Indiana to be able to make their coaching hire quicker. I mean, all of these dominoes that come in, and it's just it's crazy how it all works. You talk about Colorado State. That's another guy who is on a lot of people's radar screen. Nico Medved, who got his first head coaching job. He was at Furman. That's hard. It's hard for a Citadel guy to admit, but as us Citadel guys, we call them the Furman University Christian Knights. I know this is a family show. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Is it?
But
Women and children, widows and orphans, dogs and cats.
But Nico Medved is one of those guys. I think he's on Iowa's radar screen. His wife is from Morgantown, West Virginia. He's got a relationship with Ren Baker, the AD at West Virginia. So all of these things are intertwined. It's going to be fabulous over the course of the next 3 weeks to see how all of these storylines, not just the games, play out.
Well, look, I'll say this.
West Virginia deserved to be in, but governors, no matter what it is, governor of West Virginia, whatever, quit adding to the clown.
Hell, everybody else
quit adding to the clown
NCAA. Why not the state of West Virginia?
Look, when Ron DeSantis got involved on behalf of Florida State, they lost the locker room and 31 guys quit, and that football program has been in a death spiral since then. I hope a similar fate is do what?
That's DeSantis doing.
Yeah, I mean, he's stay out of that stuff because they the attorney general, I think, in West Virginia got involved. I mean, look, this is a basketball tournament, man. And then you lost your coach in the process. I mean, he's the new coach at Indiana, and there's a lot of cool storylines and. Everybody, interested Gary Harris when he joins us in a minute from Tuscaloosa. He's on top of what's going on with Alabama. Nate Oates, a lot of people, he's going to go somewhere. People, let me clue you in on something. You don't know, you think Alabama and these schools in the South don't have money. You're out of your mind. I can tell you people at Alabama Alabama has some people in Tuscaloosa that are my age that can stroke the check with anybody in America. And if you think Alabama is going to get outbid, Nate Oates, he'd be crazy. He's building something cool in Tuscaloosa. And Gary, we're talking about, West Virginia's attorney general and the governor getting involved. I said, Ron DeSantis did it, and he buried the Florida State football program. They hadn't won since then. It's day one, man. Well, day three, technically.
No,
well, day one.
Day one.
It's day one.
I'm not into that week zero crap.
I like the Tuesday and Wednesday games, but the tournament starts today.
It starts today.
It's new music Tuesday, Thursday.
Yeah. Let's hear a little string music from downtown Tuscaloosa.
But I guess it was John that said everybody's suing the NCAA, and that's not far from the truth. I spoke to a men's group, YMCA men's group yesterday, and all they want to talk about is NIL and the portal. And I just said, well, if you've got an issue, you just threaten to sue the NCAA. And they just, whether it's eligibility, whether it's past money that you're owed, right now it just seems like, and there was several attorneys in there. I said, we need lawyers. But I said, there is an attorney. If there's somebody that wants to sue somebody, there's an attorney somewhere that will take the case. So I don't think that's far removed from the truth. I think more lawsuits are coming. As I've said in the past, I think the next, I don't know if it'll be a lawsuit, but I think the next thing we're going to face, John, you might have some thoughts on this, and I'll get to Alabama in a minute, is I think you're going to have whether it's an NBA guy that went after 1 year of college or an NFL guy whose career fizzled out after 2 or 3 years that are going to say, hey, I've got eligibility remaining in college, and I want to go back. I want to pursue my degree like anybody else is allowed to do, and I want to use my college eligibility. I don't care that I played a couple years in the pros. I think that's coming.
Yeah, I was at JUCO for 6 weeks, and I didn't go into class.
I
didn't play any games, but I think I should get in.
Yeah, I got a hangnail. My first year I had a hangnail. You just play. When you look at a roster now, and it says, of course, half the time it says graduate transfer or working on whatever. But you look at a guy and it says sophomore, you got no idea whether he's got 2 years left or he's got 6 years left.
We had a baseball game. We had a baseball game here the other day where a 17-year-old hitter faced a 25-year-old pitcher.
Grown men playing kids. That's about where we're at. And I just don't, like all those guys were asking me yesterday, we've been saying this now because the last time I'd spoken to them was about the time this all started, right around after COVID with the portal and the extra year. And they were like, somebody will do something, somebody will put something in place. And here we are. And I'm interested in John's opinion on this. I continue to, I know they're working on, the revenue sharing and this or that. And they were like yesterday, well, there's no way this system can sustain itself. And I said, I agree eventually, but it continues to sustain itself right now because people want to win and people keep coming up with what they have to do to make the system work, John. But is it sustainable the way it is right now? And I still am curious that I keep hearing, somebody's going to, we're going to have to do something, but who's going to do what continues to be the same question I've asked since all this started, and I still don't think there's an answer.
Yeah, it's like putting a salary cap on coaching salaries. Unless everybody does it,
Right.
when the next person does it, there's a trickle down effect. Not just amongst the Power 4 schools, but you get into the Group of 5 and below. And I'll say this, from during my coaching search, it is getting prohibitive for most Group of 5 schools, especially in basketball. It seems, you've got third assistants in basketball at some of these Power 4 schools making $550,000, $600,000 as the third assistant. I mean, and that's more than a lot of Group of 5 schools can pay. Where I do think you're going to see the advantage, and I may have mentioned this on here before, it's the schools like VCU or Marquette or DePaul who don't have to fund the NIL on a football side that are going to be able to invest more and more in basketball. I just saw where the AD at VCU said, well, hey, we're going to pump another, $4 million, I think it was, into men's basketball NIL next year. So that's part of it. You make a great point, Gary, on the attorneys and what the next lawsuits are going to be. And hey, I played a year and professionally I want to come back. The other thing that I can see coming down the pipe that I've had this conversation with several colleagues, those really good college players, whether it's football, baseball, men's or women's basketball, whatever, who were good college players, not good enough to make it in the pros. And they're going to come back 5 years from now, and there's going to be a class action lawsuit that says, well, hey, I made $200,000 a year. I got a full scholarship, my housing, my meals, my medical, my training, all that stuff were paid for. I didn't make it to the league, whatever that league may be. I have been wronged by the system. What are you going to do for me now? And I can see it coming. It's out there.
And the guy asked me yesterday about a player suing a coach because either he had an injury that he is going to argue was because they practiced beyond the amount of time they were supposed to practice, or he didn't get treated fairly and it affected his career. I mean, everything's open right now. And the one thing too about the lawsuits, and then I do want to talk a little bit about Alabama with you guys, is you've got the revenue sharing, but it's kind of like John was saying, with all it takes is one. But the revenue sharing, the way I understand it, it may help all the athletes get paid something, but that doesn't impact the NIL at all, does it, John? I mean, you still can pay above and beyond whatever you want.
Yeah, you can still have an outside collective, although the deals in that outside collective are going to have to go through this third-party clearinghouse established. That, and I almost hate to say this term. I mean, I can talk for hours on this, because this clearinghouse is going to determine fair market value of those deals. I mean, that's going to be open to lawsuits too. Somebody's going to sue and say, that's a biased view of what my fair market value is.
How about Will Wade being able to win the process by waiting things out till strong ass offers are now legal?
Yeah.
Hey, give Will Wade credit. He knew he could coach. So he, a lot of people would not have wanted that McNeese job, but he, I remember his opening press conference. He said, whatever they won 3 or whatever they were the year before, 3 and 20 something. We said, we'll be, 20 something and 3 next, and he did it. I mean, I'll say this for the guy. The guy earned his opportunity because he could flat out coach basketball.
Yeah,
now.
That's what it is. Gary, guys, I got an idea for a great movie. This is along the line of what this discussion is. Remember the movie Step Brothers?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have 2 former guys that have some eligibility left at a college. It's going to be like Step Brothers. I'm 39 years old. I'm going back. That's because we're going to have a 30-year-old playing. You remember?
Oh, absolutely.
The high school up in Cincinnati about 10 years ago had the big tall guy on their school team, a high school team. They took the team picture, and somebody said, "How old is that guy?" And he was 30. He was 31 years old.
Well, it's you got kind of John alluded to it with guys wanting, but you got guys like Pavia and Chad Baker Mazzara they're extending their college time as long as they can, because as good a college players as they are, they don't necessarily project as top flight pros. In fact, right. I don't know that either one of them will make it in the NBA or the NFL. So it's like, as long as we can play in college and make the money that we're making, we're going to extend our window as long as we can. And so, you're at a point now, and of course you always had Utah and Brigham Young to some degree with the Mormon missions that would have older guys when they came back. But so what y'all said earlier, you got, again, I there's a big difference between someone 18 years old and somebody 25 or 26 years old. There just is. And I don't think, and this is the final thing I'll say on this, but it ticks me off a little bit with all the stuff about money, portal, NIL, and all that. It's still, college sports was not designed to be played by 25, 26, 27-year-old men. It just wasn't. The design was to basically be 18 to 22, maybe 23, and then move on to the next part of your life. And the system's just been twisted and warped now, and it's not right.
Well, I got one more scenario that somebody actually came up and asked me this the other day. And they asked me this because my cousin is a lawyer here in the state of Arkansas who helped get medical marijuana legal. And he said, what about a player? And he had an example. I'm not going to bust the kid's name out. What about a player that was excellent in high school, got busted his senior year in high school, ended up with a minor in possession, ended up being, in prison for 5 years? Should that 5 years count against him now that marijuana is legal so many places? Somebody's going to sue over that too. And I said, probably, but get away from me. Go. I don't want it.
Well, somebody, some drug dealer sued that he had to be allowed to be on the team so he could sell his drugs. I mean,
Well, and we've now got residents in college, like medical residents. That's what we've really got to. Gary, Alabama, 2 seed, man, big. And you're the one. Thank you for sending that picture, by the way, of Coleman Coliseum from the IBOB 1. That place, old as it is, it's a pretty cool venue. Whoever took that panoramic picture, you texted it to me. But anyway, let's talk about the Fighting Oats.
Yeah. And real quick on Coleman Coliseum. So we were talking about yesterday, we were talking about the new arena, and I said, well, right now Oats wants the built around the arena, and so he can have more money for NIL. But I think old Coleman, most people that criticize it have never been to a game there. Yeah. It's a fine place to watch a game when it's cranking. Alabama, okay. Good Alabama can beat anybody in the country. Off night Alabama is they're vulnerable. I think we've seen that all year. So there's some moving parts to this team because the whole game plan is to get to the rim or shoot the three. There's not a lot. Holloway will shoot a runner every now and then, and but for the most part, it's at the rim and shooting the three. And when you play the teams, and of course, I guess Florida gives everybody trouble, obviously, because they're really good, and other teams, but the big physical defensive teams that can really guard you, push you off the 3-point line, have rim protection, make it tough on Alabama. And will they run into somebody like that? I don't know. I think Sunday, after they, should beat Robert Morris tomorrow, I think Sunday, St. Mary's or Vanderbilt is going to be a competitive game. But after that, I do see them getting to the Elite Eight to play Duke. And right now, in my bracket, I've got Duke winning that game. I think Duke's a more complete team. But certainly Alabama has the ability, the talent, coaching to get to the Final Four. But I don't see it happening quite to that point this season. But we'll tee it up tomorrow, or tip it off tomorrow and see where they go.
Matt.
Yeah, is Matt with us?
No, I'm here. I've just been kind of listening for a little bit, guys. Quickly, my reference on Bama, I agree 100% what Gary says, as I always do, Gary. The nights that Bama shows up, they can win the whole thing. In my bracket, I think a real intriguing matchup is a Sweet 16. I have Bama playing Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a team that has more offensive firepower than in years past, just to be honest with you guys. Greg Gard has done a really good job with that basketball team. And I think the winner of that game can honestly beat Duke. I'll tell you another team we're not talking about. In the Sweet 16, Oregon and Arizona, if either one of them advance, Arizona's been playing really good basketball. Oregon's been playing really solid basketball. I think Oregon's got a 7-footer, 6'11" guy, Nate Brittle, that can face the basket, shoot all the way to the 3-point line. I think Dana Altman is one of the most underrated coaches in America. I think he's a really good coach, especially this time of year. And I think it kind of cringed me to put Duke in my Final Four bracket, guys. So I'm actually pulling for that to be upset, to be honest with you. But I think they're really good. But I think to beat Duke, you're going to need someone with some size, and I think that's where Oregon or even Bama can beat Duke in that region.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that Dana Altman was the best ever 26-hour head coach here at the University of Arkansas. He accomplished a lot in those 26 hours.
It was a hell of a day.
I remember that awkward Big Suey that he did.
Hey,
That's what I said.
I went to cover. He got
was
hired and he wanted to talk to me about recruiting because, I followed recruiting a lot back then and wrote a lot about recruiting. And he said, could you come to my office the day after you got hired? I said, sure. Well, I went to football practice that day, and came time to go down to his office. And I went down to his office, and longtime basketball secretary Terry Mercer was sitting there. She looked at me and she just started shaking her head. I was like, what? And she said, I don't think you're going to have the meeting. And I said, okay. Then he came out of the door with at the time, the president of the university, and he said, hey, there's been a change. I'm going to go back to Oregon. And I said, okay, unless that's off the record, I'm about to report that. And so it was 26 hours of bliss here, but then he was gone. But he's been a heck of a coach all of his career.
He really has. Gary, I know you've got a
I got to go a little early today too because I got Rob Browne right off the top.
Yeah, what are you going to be talking about today, and how can they follow you? Because you are absolutely putting content out, and during the tournament, guys, it's going to be fun.
Well, we're going to have Rob Browne right off the top, and can't wait to talk to him because Alabama plays Tennessee in this 3-game series that begins tonight. Unfortunately, it's going to be cold, but you got 2 losses combined between the two teams. Alabama's 21-1 and Tennessee's 20-1, and Tennessee had not lost a single game until the midweek against East Tennessee. Interestingly enough, East Tennessee is 6-4 against Tennessee with Vitello as the head coach, which is kind of amazing. And then Alabama almost got beaten the midweek. They won in 10 over South Alabama, and Tennessee lost to East Tennessee State in 10 innings. But that's going to be an unbelievable series to have 2 teams in the SEC that have 2 losses combined. It's a big series, begins tonight, so we'll have that. Obviously, the basketball, men and women. Gymnastics has the SEC championships this week, so there's so much going on. At Gary Harris _WVUA is my well, you find me on X, and then Gary Harris WVUA 23 on Facebook. I'd love for you to follow me on both of those, and of course, Tide 100.9. .com is the website for the radio station, and WVUA23.com for the TV station. So, all right, March Madness is here, so it's going to be some long days. Thanks, guys.
Good visiting with you, Gary. Hey, I'll say amongst this esteemed panel, just for the folks in Tuscaloosa to know, I was the only one who picked the Tide to be in the Final Four.
No, I got him in there.
Something. I didn't even pick Alabama to go to the Final Four. Now I'll catch some flack for that. I promise.
Hey. I got them in there. I got Michigan State, Florida, Houston, and Alabama, and I got Florida playing Houston and Florida winning it all. But, Gary, thank you so much. You're always one of the absolute best. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, let me say something. Matt Dean, I know you've got to get going, and then we're going to come back. Stay with us, Matt, because I got one more question for you. Winter Timber Outdoors people are located in Athens, Alabama, open every day of the week. Get out there. It is turkey season. They have everything you need, all the calls, the ground blinds, the Migra turkey loads. Athens, Alabama, another store under construction in Auburn, Alabama. They're going to grow in the footprint that is the Southeastern Conference. Hopefully soon something in Memphis could happen. Keep your eyes and ears open. Winter Timber Outdoors, buy one, get one free. Take a picture with your cellular of that QR code. Matt, guys, and I tell you what, this is so much fun when we get a lot of people on here. I just wish we could have a virtual breakfast on there with like some venison sausage. I cooked some deer bacon the other day, eggs, farm fresh eggs from the egg man up on the ridge. I get them all from his Happy Chickens, but this is awesome. And I thank y'all all so much. And our executive producer, Brendan Martin, man, he is doing so much stuff, and the graphics, the information that he puts up, and cannot be more happy with what we have. But Matt, say what you got to say. I know you got to go, and I'd love to meet you for lunch today in Memphis at Rhodes Cafeteria if you've got time. My treat. I love that food, by the way.
At 440 a meal, Rob, that's a heck of a deal. So, hey, No wonder you want to meet me there so often.
Damn right.
I get it.
Who's buying?
Well, he knows me. I've bought the last 3 times, John.
I'm always they
the alligator arms when the check comes.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll be glad to do it. I get to talk to all those coaches over there, man. That is the prettiest campus in America. It's gorgeous. Matt Dean, Davenport, Iowa awaits your word.
No, hey, listen, I've told you guys my Final Four. I just want to congratulate John again. I just know how hard it is to get your guy in searches, and congratulations, John. Dudley, I'm pulling for Arkansas, man. I don't know who's going to win that game. I love Coach Self, but I like the fact that Boogie Flanders back. I think it makes a huge difference. I know they have some other injuries going on, but Arkansas, after 0-5 start, one of the best teams in the second half of the season. Guys, have a great one. It's one of the best days of the year. It's a basketball holiday. Take care.
It is.
Yeah, all I'm saying is it better be a good day because they're taking off Matty Matlock, the new Matlock. So I love that show. It has really nothing to do with Andy Griffith's Matlock.
Yeah.
But I love that show. There better be something great on TV on Thursday night, and there is if you're going to take off Matlock.
Take care, guys.
All right, thank you, Matt. Let me say something, and also Landers Ford, folks. I am so proud to have them as a sponsor on this show. They've made a big commitment to this show and the Mid-South, and anywhere you are, you can order online. They're open every day of the week except Sundays, 7 a.m., 7 p.m. Great service department. They'll pick you up, home, office. You don't have to get a ride. They'll pick you up and take you home. When it's ready, they'll do the same thing. They are the #1 Ford dealership in the Mid-South, not by accident, because they'll outwork people. They'll do whatever it takes to get you in a vehicle, whatever your credit situation. They will do everything humanly possible to make it happen. The Broncos, the F-150s, golly, man. And if you pull, you can get the dualies, the F-350s, everything Ford makes. The Ford promise is there. LandersFordMemphis.com. What a great experience you'll have. And ask for Brad Bellamy, the general manager. And they're right down the street from our good friends at Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the square in Collierville. Guys, I love this. I do love this day. Even though, Tuesday and Wednesday night, I had my boots on and I was watching. I got them at Hewlett and Dunn. And by the way, folks, it's cold today in Memphis. It's feels like 32 is the wind chill. And it does. It's cold. And they've got a great 50% off sale on Duck Camp, Barber. They've got Filson, Ariat, Wrangler, you name it, clothing, Duckhead out there on the rack. And they've got the new stuff coming in for the spring. Get out there, open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Look, the first game will start in about 2 hours? 11:15. Okay. And we're going to throw the term upset out the window. Would y'all agree with that? I mean, because at this point, every one of these teams is good enough to be in the tournament. Now, if Alabama State wins or Florida loses in the first round as a 1 seed, yeah, it's only happened one time.
Yeah, and it is. That's why it's called madness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you make it to this point, you've obviously got some talent on your roster. Some may have 13, 14 really, really talented guys. Some may have 2 or 3, but, you can even look down, and I'm looking down at the start times and everything else. Look at the second tip at 11:40. High Point as a 13 seed and Purdue as a 4 seed.
Yeah.
It's only a 7.5 point spread on that. So obviously there's not a ton of difference there. So really, back to your original question about upsets, I think, when you get down to seeds 13 to 16, it's you can deem it an upset, but you can bank on there being a couple of those games that go to the lower seeds.
Yeah, Zach Edey walking through that door.
Yeah.
Today.
Zach Edey. Yeah. One of the more popular players. Put him and Danny Hurley together, man. Everybody loves both those guys. I don't know what it is. Why was Zach Edey such a lightning rod? Because he was 8 feet tall. In Florida, by the way, Franz Beard said they have a 7'9" player. Mm-hmm. He said in his basketball shoes, he's over 8 feet tall. Now, we've never had an 8-footer before that I know of. but Florida's got the tall trees, man. I think, guys, today, Big Ten, just a few years ago, the Big Ten, they're more physical, they're tougher, they're better. I think the SEC, and John, I got to ask you this: the Mountain West, St. Mary's, the late night, and I tell you, I don't know what people think. I loved Bill Walton on those late night games. I mean, he'd be talking about, John Hartwell, the forward for Utah State, young man, was from Mobile, went to UMS, great young man. In his spare time, he's quite the pianist. His mentor was Richard Clayderman, the world's most beloved pianist. Remember those afternoon infomercials? Richard Clayderman, yes. Zamfir, the master of the pan flute. He is quite a musician. His family takes trips to Salzburg, to where they film The Sound of Music, and a hell of a point guard. I
remember one time when I was sitting around doing Wahooska and listening to him play.
Hey, my boys, especially Wilson and his friends, like to pop up unannounced in places like Red Rocks, Colorado. And you think about Bill Walton. I met him about 8 years ago at a speaking engagement in Memphis, and he was just sitting right next to me. And I was talking to him at this early morning business. It was packed. Man, that guy was so cool. It's the first time I ever met him, only time. But his parents were both librarians. I love these basketball guys like that. I got to ask y'all, Bill Raftery, whatever. Al McGuire, Dick Enberg. Who are your favorite ones to watch now? And I love Dick Vitale, but the Duke Man Crush, chill a little bit, the SEC, and pay attention to the SEC, but who are y'all's favorite guys that call these games?
You're talking about current day.
Current
obviously,
days. Not Harry Carey.
I grew up on Jodine too, string music. Really, really good. But, I'm a little partial to him because I've gotten to know him since being down here in North Louisiana. Tim Brando. I think Tim Brando is a heck of a, whether it's basketball or football announcer. But there's a lot of them out there today. Jim Nance. I still love Jim Nance. Jim Nance's stretch from Final Four to the Masters. A lot of people on it, including me, envy the run he's had there.
Yeah. Dudley?
I'm gonna go ahead and say so they'll continue to buy my Bud Lights. Joe Klein, Pat Bradley, Jimmy Dykes.
Yes. Yeah.
Two of them that were in my wedding. So I'm going to continue to say them. I love watching, listening to them work. But I tell you what, I think that there's so many good ones right now, and there's only a few bad ones. And I think we've gone. I think that we've advanced a little bit in the talent level overall. Not that there's any one that just stands out right now, but there used to be some bad ones that just got the jobs because they played. And I think overall it's, of course, the proliferation of having every game ever played on TV now, whether it's streamed or whatever, I think helps. But I just really enjoy, I love radio too. I still turn on the radio while watching TV at times because those guys paint the picture because they have to.
Yeah. If you stream, which I do, I sync it perfectly. Andy Burcham and Randall Dickey on the Auburn broadcast crew. And I have a lot of apps on my phone, whether it's Arkansas, Alabama, Florida, you pick the school. It's really cool to hear the radio because then after the game, you get to hear the interviews with the players and the coaches. And I love that sense of urgency, but it localizes it. That's one of the things Brendan always talks about is that flying coast to coast at 45,000 feet, you have a view of America, but you drill down local. And that's what Sidelines does in this channel is we have this show and at night, Buddy Martin, they're Gator heavy, but they're going to talk about the big picture as well. Scarbo Knows now on this channel, Kevin Skarbinski. We do an AU Undercover show with Ronnie Sanders and the great team there. But what I'm finding out is when you get down on the ground, John, I'm sure you're pushing hard at ULM to get a greater presence of social media and you put a lot of stuff out there. And I'll tell you, my favorite, the guy that's so passionate, and I don't know him, but he's from Everett, Mass. Pat Bradley. I love the guy's passion. I mean, there's something about it. He said something. You remember a couple of years ago, Arkansas was playing Gonzaga on a Thursday night. And Gonzaga was the number 1 overall seed. And he goes, I'm from Everett, Mass, up near Boston. And he said, I live in Arkansas. And he said, I played for the Hawks. And he said, no matter where you go in that state, you may have a guy with a big house at, Greer's Ferry at Heber, or he could have, he doesn't have much, but he's got that Arkansas flag in his front yard that waves proudly. He goes, Razorback pride is a big deal. And he goes, it means a lot. And it just gives you chills. I would love to meet him, Jimmy Dykes. I've had Joe Klein on the show. Michael Jordan, my friend, his sister and brother-in-law live up in Springdale. He's Mike Mata.
Jordan, my friend.
Michael Jordan, William Michael Jordan, a great Irish Catholic. But he introduced me to Joe Klein. And because it's just, I remember Joe Klein. He's from Slater, Missouri, I think.
Big Joe from Slater, Mo.
Yeah, and I remember when he transferred. I'm old enough to remember when he transferred from Notre Dame to Arkansas. But the cool thing is,
we arrived at the same time at the University of Arkansas.
Yeah, and you think about all these guys, and you look on TV. I tell you, I like Fishback, Ron Slade, Patrick Young. Patrick Young's a guy. I love that guy. What he has been through, and he's got the best attitude. And just pray for full recovery. He ain't ever going to give up. But we need a coach though in the studio. I keep saying our friend John Brady, who comes on Wednesdays with us. John was out sick yesterday. Could you imagine Brady in the studio? He'd go, hold on a second. Yeah.
You might have to have a 5-second delay on that one.
I mean, him and Duffy together. But I'm telling you, these announcers, Jimmy Dykes is a basketball savant is an understatement. He is so X's and O's, and he's everything he's saying. He's written about it or he's thought about it. I don't know him, but I mean, you can't get enough of these guys. I still think maybe Al McGuire was about as cool as it got. The most interesting, Bill Walton. But to me, as a radio junkie going back in time, Harry Carey's about as good as it gets, And when the guys used to drink on the air, let's be honest, Pat Summerall, Tom Brookshire, I mean, does it get much better than the Monday Night Football booth? They just told it like it was. But I just love honest, sincere banter.
Hey, Pat Bradley, when I first called him for a recruiting story out of Everett, Massachusetts, he said, I'm a shooting god. And I said, now, man, I've seen you shooting. You're pretty good, but I don't know about shooting god.
I love it. Hey, if you can ever get him to come on this show.
I'll send you his number.
I would love it because the passion. And when we had Ron Slay on I met Ron at Media Days. He is the most he is so genuinely, he's as real as it gets. He is a basketball junkie. But you know what I love most of all is all the people that make it happen. John, congratulations on getting that coach. A basketball search is, I imagine, one of the most difficult things you can do to find a coach. But as Chris Del Conte at Texas told you in the press box, I see you're working your magic again at ULM. And it's really cool to watch it. And Dudley, I listen to you every time you say, I am not a fan, I am a journalist. Okay. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're the most blessed people in the history of the world. Every one of us, as Mother Teresa said, we can't do everything, but we can all do something. Go help people out today, make great things happen. And we are blessed to have you. Thank you. March Madness is here. Go crazy, people. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Watch the Buddy Martin Show tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on this channel for an incredible banter and dialogue. See ya.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Dudley. Good visiting with you.
Tim.